a rare occurrence that I will disagree with Chris Stuckman on anything, particularly this much. Stranger Things Season 3, I literally just marathoned it last night. I started around like 8 o'clock. I didn't get to bed till like 3:30-ish in the morning. I made a whole French press of coffee and just got it done. And nobody at work has seen it yet, or at least not seen the whole series, so I have nobody to talk to about it. So here I am on my channel. Stranger Things Season 3, let's talk about it. Chris Stuckman said that he felt that the first 3 or so episodes didn't really go anywhere, and it kind of started out slow, and it really wasn't until episode 4 that things started picking up. Now, this might not be a very popular opinion on my part, but honestly, Stranger Things Season 3 was my least favorite season. Now, I'm not saying that it was bad. I do appreciate the fact that they tried to go like a different route. They tried to reference different things to kind of keep it alive. And I wouldn't really shit on that idea going forward in the future. If they wanted to have like a different theme for every season, that might actually work and prevent the show from getting stagnant. However, where Chris Stuckman thought that the first couple episodes, 3 or so, started out really slow and then it started to pick up, I actually loved the first 2 episodes in particular because there was a lot of humor and it was really funny. Everything that they referenced was really nostalgic in that kind of magical Stranger Things way. And you really get to see like these characters that you love so much. And I really do love the characters. That's really what kept me watching last night, frankly, through this marathon. But then after that, it definitely kind of lost steam. And again, I appreciate the fact that they really tried to go like a different route with this one. I liked the fact that they referenced, zombie movies. And I mean, they were like meta with the George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Very underrated movie, by the way. And the fact that, there's all this stuff around the mall. So you got plenty of opportunity for like nostalgia with like the Sam Goody and like all these things that nobody's seen since, the 90s. So you got that. Plus you have, the whole Dawn of the Dead theme with the mall. And the mall even looked kind of similar to the original George A. Romero Dawn of the Dead. And the fact that this time around, it's sort of like zombies, people being taken over by the Upside Down. Again, in theory, all really good. The involvement of Russia, they reference Red Dawn, and that's all great because a lot of shit in the 80s, was the end of the Cold War, or moving towards the end of the Cold War. Prior to Chernobyl, it was like that Rocky IV era where everything was like Russia this, Russia that, what if Russia attacks, da-da-da-da. But they spent, honestly, if I'm being real, a little bit too much time with the Russians. It felt in certain parts like almost sort of like an espionage movie. And the monster that they had, the little mini mind flayer that was basically composed of the things that it had killed and eaten, took things right out of the movie The Blob, the 1980s version. Really cool monster, but I wish we'd had a little bit more time with it. And Billy, Mad Max's older brother from season 2, they actually kind of did something with him in this season, but honestly, the way it came across, it was really too little too late, at least the way it was executed. I feel that if they had done more with his character in season 2, they build up to a lot, and then he's just sort of an asshole, and you find out that he has kind of an abusive past with his father. So there's something there, I mean, you're like thinking like, other things are going to happen with this character, and I'm happy that they made more happen, but it was kind of like a throwaway character, frankly, I mean, if they had built him up a little bit more in season 2, if he had been a little bit more involved, I feel that the events of this season would have been more poignant. I'm still glad that they did something with him, and you do have sympathy for him, but I still feel that, like, that character really didn't reach his full potential in the show, but that's just one opinion. They have a Russian assassin who clearly is supposed to be the Terminator. I mean, like the way he dresses, the way he moves, the way he carries his gun. My wife and I were talking about this, and honest to godly, I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't just go all out and say like, yeah, that guy's a robot. I think that my biggest problem with this season, frankly, is that it's not that it got darker, because, as it goes along, it should get darker. And this one is hands down the goriest too. This season was like, I would say it would be like a hardcore PG-13, bordering on R. There's a lot of shit in it, like, you know, the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark with like people melting. Actually, there was a scene where Steve Harrington and what's-her-face were tied up together back to back. And I was actually really hoping that they were going to go all out and do kind of a Raiders of the Lost Ark where the Russians started melting. I mean, a part of me was kind of hoping they were going to do that, and then the other part of me is like, nah, that would have been too much. It would have been too much like, let's just steal everything that Spielberg ever did. So I'm happy they didn't, but I do feel that it was supposed to be like a direct reference. The actual moral majority of this season, after the second episode, it's very, very dark. And it's like, I kind of wish that they'd incorporated a little bit more of like the humor, a little bit more of the kind of brevity that the other seasons had. It's not that it got darker, it's just I feel that there was an imbalance. You know, the show starts off with a lot of humor, with a lot of references, and it's very fun and uplifting. And then it gets dark, and it stays dark for a really long time. And again, like when they got towards the ending, there were a lot of things that happened that where, you know, there was a reference to the never-ending story, which, I mean, once you guys see this, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it was like, it was cringeworthy, but it was also great at the same time. I loved it, but I wish that there had been a little bit more of that, because it got so dark and kind of violent and gory, and it just didn't feel like Stranger Things. You know what I mean? It felt like something else. And I know that this is by no means a popular opinion. I've looked up reviews for this, and everybody seems to really love it. There are even a lot of people out there saying that this is their favorite season. And that's not to say that I didn't like it. That's not to say that it wasn't good. It was just not what I wanted it to be, I guess. If there's anybody else out there who felt the same way, or even if you didn't, feel free to comment below. I'd really actually like to discuss this. Admittedly, it was a disappointment, but it wasn't like an insult, you know? It wasn't like terrible, and I do feel that it deserves like a second watch. Maybe I'll feel differently about it, and if that's the case, then I will gladly go back and do another video. But yeah, Stranger Things Season 3, I sort of feel like there was an imbalance. I feel like there was a lot of themes that weren't really brought to their full potential. My wife actually brought up a really good point that they kind of set up something in the last season about Elle's father, and that's just been dropped. I mean, like, there was no, like, even reference to it this season. And that's kind of disappointing. I feel like that was something that, even if it was on the side, they could have, like, started building up to. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still feel that it's going to be utilized in future seasons, but I kind of hope that it's not a Billy situation where, like, we didn't really have much of a foundation, so we were sort of like, oh, okay. Stranger Things Season 3, I'd give it, like, C+, B-. It was, you know, it was decent. Definitely not made of the same stuff that the first two seasons were made of. All right, guys, that's all she wrote.